Okay, so thank you guys for coming. So I was in the area, so I thought, why not come by and do a session? And Pete is somewhat in the area, so he came up as well. And so what we're going to do today is just going to show you some of the art of the possible within Einstein Analytics. I hope nobody falls asleep now because it's really dark.
And we just fed everyone pizza.
And yeah, we just got pizza. But I just want to say that what we also wanted to do here is, can we just mute me? So, because it's kind of annoying. So what we wanted to do was to make sure that this is also from a developer perspective. So what we're going to be showing you today is some of the more advanced stuff. So be aware that, when you have Einstein Analytics, when you work with Einstein Analytics, there is, of course, a lot of things to the UI that you can do. But we wanted to give you a little bit of a flavor of all the other things that are possible. Now, we are active on Twitter, so we are up here. And if you are active on Twitter and tweeting, here's some of the hashtags we're using. So, yeah. First of all, yes, my name is Rikke, and I'm a Einstein Analytics Solution Architect with Salesforce. I have been working in the ecosystem for 7 years. I've only been actually in Salesforce for about a year, but in the ecosystem for about 7. And the last 4 years, I've been working with Einstein Analytics. And just like Pete, I'm also kind of active in the community trying to not do videos, but I do blogging instead. So, yeah.
All right, so my name's Pete. I'm a consultant with Huron Consulting Group, and I've been working in Salesforce for about 4 years. I've been a Salesforce MVP for just over a year now, and I'm just a huge fanboy when it comes to Einstein Analytics. I'll try to bind in anything. If I can break it, I probably will find a way. And I provide YouTube content, bit.ly Let's Play SFDC. My channel is Let's Play Salesforce. I got about 12 hours of content. I do tutorials, new release coverage. And if you're looking to see what's on the roadmap, I actually post new release videos 2 months before that it hits your production environment. So a full month before it's in sandboxes. So I like it.
Cool. I do have to put this up because I'm forward-looking because I'm in Salesforce. So basically, if you're looking to make any purchases, please do so on what is currently available in the system. The reason I also say this is I am actually in product. So sometimes if you ask a question, I'm like, oh, that's really cool, but it's not there yet. I know it's on a roadmap or something like that. But anything we're going to be looking at today is all generally available. So I don't think there will be anything of that today.
Yeah.
So the agenda we're going to do is just first a short intro into Einstein Analytics, just give a little bit of context, a little bit of some terminology, and then we're going to go into the demo. So we're going to be building some data sets and modifying data flow. Pete will do that. Also do some XMD. I will then look at some compare tables, SAQL, and some predictions with some time series, and also how we can visualize pretty much anything. In custom maps, we'll do some SAQL use case, and we'll also look at some bindings. So that's the agenda. Oh yeah, by the way, afterwards we'll do a little challenge with some prizes. So we have a challenge where you can get your hands dirty, and Pete and I will of course go around and help you guys get that. So in terms of just like basic, actually before I go into the slide, I just want to say that if you sorry, I probably have to stay with this with the mic. So if you have heard of Wave before, Wave and Einstein Analytics is pretty much the same. It's just a new name. The other thing that you might have been hearing about is that we're now talking about Einstein Analytics Plus. What that actually means is that we have Einstein Analytics, which is the analytics platform, but we also have Einstein Discovery in the same under the same hood now. So that means that with Einstein Analytics Plus, you basically get both the discovery part and the analytics part. So just if we're saying anything around that. In terms of, what's the question?
Oh, but it won't.
It's fine.
The bridge won't pick it up.
It's fine.
Oh, okay, we'll figure it out.
It's cool. It's cool. So in terms of assets, these are some of the generic things that we have in Einstein Analytics. So what we're looking at over here is on the left side is the way that we're getting our data in. So this is our databases. It can be, of course, Salesforce data, and it can also be CSV files, because let's face it, we're still going to have those. We bring them over in our data flow. So we're bringing them into Einstein Analytics, and we're registering them as a data set. A data set is basically where we're what we're using for any of our dashboards or lenses. So this is, think of it as an Excel sheet pretty much. So you have columns and rows with all your data. Now we also have lenses. Lenses are a single exploration of your data set. So you might say, I want to see my stage or my opportunities by stage. So that's a single exploration. I also put in a parenthesis because now we also have stories in here. So that's also a little bit in here, but it's not the same as lenses. I just wanted to highlight with the Analytics Plus, we have that. And then we also have, of course, dashboards, which is multiple explorations. It's just one view. All of this is wrapped, or is basically put into an app, which we call in Einstein Analytics. And this is what controls, this is what we control who has access to it. Now, when we are dealing with this data, we're bringing our data in. As I said, we're using the data flow. So the data flow is actually taking data from, for instance, Salesforce, bring it in. We do some transformations, and you'll see Pete do a few of those. And then we register it into a data set. Now, the data set that we have, it can come from any of our objects. And these objects are then being put into the data set, or they're being flattened actually and put into a data set. And each column will either be a text, number, or date. Text is also known as dimension, and number is known as measures. What we're also doing in this process with the data flow is we're actually flattening the whole hierarchy. So the important thing here to remember as well is we're starting with the lowest level. So the most detailed level of what we want our data set to represent. And when we have that, we are actually indexing everything. So we're flattening a file and indexing everything. So the reason we're doing that is to make sure that when we're actually looking for this data again in your dashboards, then we can find it pretty fast. So what this kind of imagine in a book. So if I asked you to read through every single line and figure out where does it say, in this case, Mr. Pink, or it could be any word, that would take quite a long time to go through the book. But if you have an index in the back of it, you can just go ahead and look at that and find the pages where it is. And that's kind of the same thing we're doing in Einstein Analytics. So we're indexing the dimensions, not the measures, just FYI. So the lens we have, that's a single exploration. And what we can do here is just we can apply measures, we can apply groupings, filters, and we, of course, also how do we want to view this specific data. We can also order, we can set limits. So these are just some of the things that we can do for a single exploration. The dashboard, of course, is a collection of different explorations. One thing to remember here is, unlike standard reports and dashboard, we don't actually have to save each lens to use them in a dashboard. We're just saving the instructions, and that's all we need. But on top of that, we also have in our dashboard, you can see that they're actually reacting to each other. So what we're calling faceting, as soon as you start clicking on it, it starts making selections, and you see more, you're drilling down into your data. Another thing is we have Salesforce Global Actions. You can apply that, so you can actually take action from within your dashboard. We can also use chatter, so we can collaborate. We can do annotation on our dashboards. And then, of course, we can embed our dashboard in Salesforce. And finally, also, we have it available on our mobile. As I said before, the app is kind of where we're storing everything into, and this is where we also controlling who has access to it. That's being said, if you have a license, of course, to access Einstein Analytics and the right permissions to do it. But if you do that, then the specific assets are controlled by the app. Whoops, not the challenge yet. So what we want to do now is just go into Salesforce. And I will let you take over, Pete.
All right. So I've taken the liberty of spinning up a new data flow. And when I get into the data manager, this first off, this is the monitor. This is what's going to tell you all the different runs. This is going to include any files that are being loaded in externally, either manually through a CSV or through one of the various native connectors. If replication, now known as sync, has been running, that will be in here as well. And all of the different scheduled data flows that you have are going to show up here. So you can see all of the different success and error messages, for better or worse in translating those error messages sometimes. But then if we look at these other tabs down here, one thing to point out is we see this connect one. You're only going to have that if you have sync enabled. So what sync does is it's almost like a staging table where it's going to take your Salesforce data and it's going to kind of queue it up there so that when the data flow goes to run and digest your Salesforce data, it already has it queued up and the data flows are able to run faster. And there's different configuration options we have for that. But the important reason why I'm mentioning this is because if we don't have sync enabled, we aren't going to have this create data flow button up here. So I've created an additional data flow. Pete was here, and I got some stuff in here that I'm just going to get rid of real quickly. And we're going to demonstrate how to create a data set. So another important thing to remember is that data sets do not belong to data flows. A data flow is just a series of instructions that says, go into my Salesforce, pull out the data, maybe grab this external data over here, let's transform it all together and put it through the rock tumbler of insights, and then register it as these data sets to be consumed by dashboards. So you can have a single data set that's referenced in multiple different data flows. Not best practice. I would not suggest doing that unless you're really careful about it because they can break each other. But the data flow itself is independent of the data sets that are referenced within it, just as the data sets are independent of the data flow. So when you're first getting started with this, I recommend using the data set builder, especially if you're only looking at standard Salesforce objects and you don't need any complex transformations or any strange joins. It's really easy to spin up. So we're going to create a simple opportunity data set. Can't type on Macs. We're going to name it Pete's Opties. Now I'm going to pick my object. So always start at the base grain. Now, what do I say? What do I mean when I say base grain? Well, if you need information about opportunities and products and accounts, you're going to need to start at the opportunity line item. That's going to be your base grain. You're going to have one row per opportunity line item with columns that tell you about the products, the opportunity, the account, the owner, the different people that are associated with it. So always start at your base grain. If you say to yourself, well, I want accounts and opportunities, don't start at account because you're not going to be able to go down and get that opportunity information. So I'm going to pick opportunity. This is my base grain. And now when I hit the plus right here, it's going to open up and it's going to give me all the, my list of fields. Lookups are not on this list. They are on the relationships tab. We'll get to that in a second. So I'm going to grab a few fields. We're going to go with amount and close date, and we'll go with stage. And that ought to be good for now. Maybe probability, but I don't think we really need it. So then relationships. Well, what else do I want to know about this? Well, I know that my account ID is going to link me up to my account, so I'm going to go ahead and hit this join button on there. And now we see that another node has popped up, and this is where I'm going to be able to add information about the account that I'm pulling in. So we're going to go with industry, and I guess name wouldn't hurt. And then I'm going to go back to the opportunity. I'm going to add another relationship, and that's going to be my opportunity owner. And I don't really need a whole lot of information about the owner. Usually name's good enough. There's some nice hacky tricks we can do if you got a lot of people with the same name in your company. What we'll do is we'll look for dupes and join on their username if we have to. But keeping it simple for today, I'm still on account. And we're going to get name. And if anybody notices that I'm actually really bad at this, it's because it's true. I am really bad at this, but I'm extremely stubborn, which is why I know as much about it as I do. I'm really good at decoding error messages because I've literally seen all of them because I'm just so bad at this. So if it seems like hard at first, it's just a little bit to get used to. But once you get into the swing of it, it's actually really intuitive and really easy to use. So we can see I got these two different relationships right here. If I wanted to also get the account owner in the event that it was different from the OPI owner, no, that's on my fields. It's going to be under relationships. So there's my owner ID. And now I've got another pop-up for my user, and we'll grab that full name as well. We can even pull in their chatter pics to show them in tables if we want to, which is pretty cool. So now we got a real simple diagram here of the different data that we're going to be pulling in. And remember that opportunity, which is off to the left there, that's going to be our base grain. So our final registered data set is going to have one row per opportunity with information about the related account, the account's owner, and the opportunity's owner. Another important thing to know, this data set will not include accounts that do not have any opportunities. This is accounts with opportunities. If we need accounts with or without opportunities, that's a little bit different. I have a video on my channel to cover that. It's a little bit more advanced, but we can do it, just not with the data set builder. So now I'm going to go ahead and click next because that's good to go. And it's created and automatically named all of the different nodes for me that I'm going to need. So I've got my digestive user that's being pulled in 2 different times. The reason why is because one of those is the account owner, one of those is the opportunity owner. Over here are my original digests. And if we open these up, oops, I forgot a field. We can come down here and we can add additional fields. We can also edit the data types of this. The common use case for this is somebody thought it was a good idea to say that zip code was a number. And no, we don't want to do math on it. We want to group by it. So we could change our data type. We can also set default values, which is extremely important. If I try to group by account industry and it's null, those rows just don't show up at all. So I like, for things that I'm going to be grouping by heavily, and I know there's a lot of null values in my data, I don't want those rows to drop off the radar. So I like to set default values so that we know, unknown or NA or blank or not the droids you're looking for. Something to tell us that these are nulls. Because otherwise, if you try to group by that field, the nulls just disappear. So now let's take it one step further. We don't just need what we have right here, because I could very easily create a standard Salesforce report to get this kind of information. Maybe I need to take it a little bit further. Maybe I want to do some bucketing, for example. So I'm going to add a compute expression, and compute expressions allow you to add additional columns just like you would in Excel. The syntax is different. It takes SAQL syntax, which we'll get into a little bit later, but it's not a very difficult syntax to pick up. So I'm going to name my my field, we'll call it opti size. Type. And basically, this is going to be like a bucket. So I want my small opportunities, my medium opportunities, and my big opportunities. So I'm going to add a field. Actually, I should have named the field opti size. And I can remove the underscore from the label. So now we got opti size. We need to leave it as text because we want to be able to group by it. So always, when in doubt, what is my data type? If you're going to be grouping by it, it's a dimension, also called text or string. And if you're going to be doing math on it, measuring it, evaluating it, it's going to be a measure, also called integer or number. So syntax. The basic syntax is going to be case, when A, then B, else C, end. And we can have as many when-then combos as we want. The else is also optional, but the end most definitely is not. So I'm going to say when amount less than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When the amount is less than $1 million, then small. Which is really weird because $1 million is big. Like, why would we ever call that small? So then small. Amount is less than 3 million, then medium, if I can hold the shift button, else large, end. So a couple of things to point out really quickly. All of these, I guess you'd call them operators, whatever. All of these keywords, case, when, then, those are all case sensitive. And I don't know why it's saying that this is spelled wrong. But maybe it thinks it needs to be capitalized. Well, it's wrong. These are all case sensitive. Case, when, then, else, end, all case sensitive. Next thing to point out, amount. That's my field name. That's why that's not in quotes. you normally want to put them in single quotes, especially if you're looking at account.industry, then it's got to be in single quotes. You're going to get a nasty error message. Now, small, medium, and large, those are all in double quotes because those are string literals. Those are the actual text values we want to return. If we didn't have the quotes there, it would say, well, I don't have a field name small or a field name medium or a field name large. And then you would get an unknown ID token error. So yeah, that's going to be a real common error that you're going to see a lot is unknown ID token. Just means I don't know this field that you speak of.
Not sure if we have time for the next one. But.
Should I do the stage sort?
No, just move on.
Okay. So now I just need to put this in place. So I'm going to change first. The data flow moves in a chain from left to right here. So right now this is disconnected. It's not doing anything. So I need to set it source to augment user 1 because that is the last node before the register. So that's where I want it to go in. But even if I registered this data set right now, it's not going to do anything because this is not plugged into the final register. So I do need to switch the register to the opti size node that I just created. Go ahead and hit save, update, and run the data flow. Hit the run button, go to data monitor, and now we're going to spam that refresh button. A lot. So we can actually switch back to Analytics Studio and come back to that in a minute. So I'll XMD. Yeah. So XMD, what is XMD? XMD is extended metadata, and this allows us to control a variety of properties. For example, we can change the label of a field without pulling it from. Well, anyway, we can change the label of a field. We can change values within that field. For example, if you got a true/false checkbox that maybe you want it to say yes or no. We can also set default colors. Maybe you want that yes to be green and you want that no to be red. We can establish currency formats. We can change all kinds of stuff around. So I'm going to go into my DTC opportunity data set right here. And if I group by stage, I'm hoping they never fixed it. So one thing they've done is they've appended all of these numbers onto the left of our stages here. So, and that's to get them to sort in order because Einstein Analytics doesn't know how your pick lists are actually sorted. It doesn't understand your business process. It just knows it has a dimension field, and unless you tell it otherwise, it's going to try to sort it alphabetically. So what we can actually do is we can go into dataset fields here, and we can find stage. For one thing, we can rename it if we want. Not going to bother. But we can go to edit values, and right here on each one of these, we can actually edit it to remove these numbers here. And where's the forward delete button? So, and notice that even though I've removed the number, if I go ahead and hit save, which I can't actually see the save button, it's off the screen. Is this a Mac thing?
It might be a
browser zoom.
Oh no, but the save is not in this one.
Oh, I'm bad at this. There we go. So also those boxes with the little slash on the right were color pickers too. So that's how we would set our colors. So if I save my changes, now I do see that reflected on the lens itself. We see that 0-1 prospecting dropped off, but it still preserves the sort order as if that 0-1 was there. Now, if we wanted to actually make this a little bit easier for ourselves, instead of doing case 1 prospecting, then 0-1 prospecting, and then anytime we add a stage, we have to go and edit our data flow, I don't like that myself. So what I do, I know that stage is actually its own object. So what I would do is I would digest the stage object, kind of like we had with the dataset builder, and I would join that up onto my opportunity dataset. I would grab the field sort order, and then anytime we mess around with that in CRM, that would flow through to analytics. And the worst thing that we would see if we change stages or change their sort order is that the numbers would show back up because we don't have 0-1 prospecting anymore. Now it's 0-3 prospecting. So that's XMD. We used to have to do this all through both data flows and XMD. It used to be 100% text only. So if you weren't friendly with JSON and Notepad++, you probably were going to have a little bit of a learning curve to struggle against. I think it's a lot easier to do it this way, but sometimes for me, I just still go back to the JSON and just copy paste whatever I need. What's our next item?
Compare table time series.
Okay.
Cool. So I will not use the mouse, but okay. So I'm just going to close this down. So one of the things that are really good in Einstein Analytics is our compare tables. You can pretty much do a lot of calculations, and it's always a good starting point when you want to do something more advanced. Start out with your compare tables. So we're going to look at how we can actually leverage compare tables to take as a starting point, do something advanced, and then we can always switch over to SAQL when we want to do something more advanced. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Create, and I'm going to click on Create Dashboard, and I'm just going to choose a blank dashboard here. I don't want to go into having a template. So the first thing I want to do in this editor, this is over here to my left is where I have all my different widgets. I have my canvas here where I can place my widgets, so any kind of visual displays my widgets. And over to my right, we're going to have the create step, which is basically, it's somewhat the same as a lens, a single exploration. It's a set of instructions, but it doesn't necessarily have to have the visual display. So what we're going to do now is we're going to click on the create step, and I have put in a data set here that I imported. It has a little bit more data. I'm going to call this time series. Always good to rename this. And the first thing I want to do is I want to do my pre-selection. So instead of count of rows, what I'm actually interested in is the sum of quantity here. And since I'm doing a time series, so I want to do some predictions on how much are we going to sell in terms of quantity. Then I need to go in and do a grouping by my date sold. And we support year, month, and year quarter. So we're going to select year, month in this case. Now this is the pre-selections I want, but I want to now switch over to my compare table. So over here in my top right, I can see the table mode, and I can switch to my compare table. So now I have the two, one is my, or one measure and one grouping. So I just need to have one more placeholder where I'm going to do my forecasted. So I'm going to click on the plus, and you can pick anything. In this case, there's only quantity, so I'm going to do sum of quantity. And I want to go ahead and click on the arrow next to my the second sum of quantity. And I'm going to go in and edit this column. Now in this case, I'm just going to call the header forecast, or fcast, because I don't want to spell the whole thing out. And then I could actually go in and type in my own formula here if I want, but I can also go in and choose some of the predefined. So you'll see here we have a lot of different ones: rank within group, period over period. Knock yourself out, see what they all do. They have different functions, but the one we want to look at now is the time series. So again, here you can see this is actually quite easy. It's asking us what is it that we want to do. So first of all, do we want to, what is the measure that we want to use for our forecast? We only have one in this case, so we're going to keep that one. How many prediction points? So how long in the future do we want to predict? It's by default 5, but I could say maybe I want to look at 8 months. Then we also have the concept of seasonality. So if I think that there is like a seasonality aspect, I can go in and define that, or I can say auto. I'm going to go ahead with the 4. And then we can also, if we wanted to, go in and choose what are the prediction model we want to use. I'm going to leave that as auto here. The other thing that's important is we have this ignore last. So let's say we're in the middle of the month and we're using that middle of the month to do our predictions. Well, that's probably going to throw our prediction off. So we can go ahead and say, hey, don't include this current month that we're in. So I can go ahead and check that ignore last. So now I have this. I'm going to hit apply, and you'll see now that my column B is changing to have my predictions. You'll notice that I still have my actual and my prediction for each for the months that I also have an actual. So it's a good way to kind of see, hey, is our model actually okay? Is it accurate? If you scroll down, you can see here all the different months, and in the end, you'll see here we actually have the 8 months going forward. Now, we can, of course, take this further. Maybe we want to add in another column, and we can go in and do, like, let's say, predict. And we can use different functions in here. So coalesce, which I can never spell.
COA.
Yeah.
Ask.
Cool. So, sorry, you guys.
You're making it worse.
Yeah. I have to say it in my head in order for me to spell it. So if somebody else is saying it, I can't spell it. Okay, so coalesce is basically telling us, okay, if we have a value, then bring that in. But if we don't have a value, then take another value. So what we can do here is say, well, if we have A, then take A. If not, take B. And then if we hit apply now, you're gonna see that down here, we're either, because we don't have our A column, we're actually bringing in our B column instead. But if we have the A column, we're bringing in the A column. The other thing we can do is go in and say round. Maybe we want to have 0 decimals and then hit apply. And we can go ahead and do this. So these are some of the advanced. I'm just going to go back close here and then just go back a few steps because I don't actually want to have this. I want to keep this view. So I can also go into SAQL to say, now I've gotten as far as I want, and maybe I want to look at this by the different channels that we have. And I just need to look at this because I want to see what is the API names, because I didn't actually remember this. Yeah. Okay. So here we have our SAQL. The first thing we did, we were loaded our, we chose our data set, so this is the load statement. We then have to go in and we did our grouping. And then we are also going in here and projecting. So each one of the ones that we want to project, our grouping and also our quantity, that's going to be put in here. Then in a time series, we need to fill in the blank date. So if there's some dates we are missing, we're filling that in with that. And then we're using our time series function. This is only something really relevant. It's a time series. If you're using standard SAQL, then you wouldn't actually need this. So this is going in and saying, what is it we want to predict? And what is the parameters that we want to include? So for instance, before we defined the length being 8 predictions, we also said seasonality is supposed to be 4. Ignore last. So these is then after this, we're going to go ahead and project it again. And then finally, we have some ordering and some limiting. So if I wanted to do the same thing that I did before with coalesce, and hopefully I can spell it now, we can actually go in and say coalesce A, B, as maybe we want to call this predict. I think I called that before. I'm just going to delete my B and then run. And you'll now see that we just have one projected. So the new one we called. So it's all in one value. Now, let's say I wanted to go in and add some more parameters. Maybe I wanted to go in and do a partition or additional grouping. So I can go in here and say channel. Then I also need to go into in my third line, and I also have to go ahead and call in my channel here. So I'm going to put in, and I'm going to do this in single quote because it's the API name. The final thing I want to do is also here in my fill, I need to go in and make sure that I have a comma partition equals channel. Oh, yeah, sorry, I was missing a comma. Thank you. Next thing I want to do is also I need to have it in here in my time series. I need to have the same partition. And finally, of course, I also need to have it as part of my last projection. So I'm going to go in here and also put, in this case, I can just put channel because I've already called it that. And hopefully this works. There you go. So what I can now do is I can switch back to my chart mode. And what I like to do is just go into charts and then go up here to suggested charts and then pick something that is coming like this. We can even go in and do some formatting saying, hey, we want to have a predictive line, which is just basically saying if it's in the future. So we want to indicate where our predictions start. Now, this is old data, so I need to put in, also it would go to today's date, but since this is old data, I'll just put in like this. Oh, sorry, I wasn't there. Ah, sorry. It was 2018. Okay. There we go. So I can go ahead and click done, drag this into my dashboard, and there we go. So that's just one example of how we can actually do, start with compare table, then go into SAQL and do some more. The next thing I want to show is just let's go ahead and look at how we can actually do some visualize pretty much anything. So what we want to do now is I'm just creating a new page, so I don't have to keep creating new dashboards. So I'm going to call this custom map. I'm going to add. Now, what I want to do is I want to create one more step. So I'm clicking on my create step. This time, I am going to use, hopefully I imported that. Yeah. Canada data. So I'm going to call this Canada. I'm actually, now I have to admit, I'm actually not sure if I can do this directly from in here, but let's try. So I'm just doing my grouping and my area. And I'm going to select the chart to be my map. Let's see if I can go in and add the additional map. Yeah, still here. Hopefully, yeah. So this is, let me just cancel this. So what this actually does is it gives us all the different maps types that we have. But if we want to do something where we don't have the actual map, we can go in and we can import our own GeoJSON and create a new custom map. This can be anything. So in this case, I'm going to upload a file. Just need to find it. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's that one. I think I called it.
Canada map, right below.
Where is it? I don't think it's this one.
It was in that GeoJSON.
Yeah, can you open up that folder?
That's not the right one, though. Hold on. Of course, I just thought of this now. Where did I delete it? Oh. Hold on. Of course, I deleted this. Hold on.
Well, she's finding that file. So we used to have this really clunky, it looked like a Visual Force page where we used to have to upload our GeoJSON. But you don't have to, like, there's thousands of lines of, GPS coordinates. It's not like you're going to have to make a text file that does this. You can find online repositories where you can download GeoJSON for the municipalities you want. For example, there's a Trailhead where you can do Los Angeles by zip code, and it provides the GeoJSON file for you. But I have created custom GeoJSON maps. For example, the board game Risk. It's not like anybody actually views the world that way, so there wasn't a GeoJSON available. So I went to this website, I think it was like mapshaper.io or something like that, but it was a Google Maps-like interface where I was able to draw polygons on the screen, and it saved that as my GeoJSON. So we've seen a lot of examples in various blogs for Reinhard Michael did a blog on looking at volcanic activity on Hawaii using GeoJSON of Hawaii, but adding in like topographical layers. And we've seen a lot of different stuff, cool stuff come out of the community for that. There was even Napoleon's March was one.
Yeah, I'm going to try this one and see if this works. I'm not sure if it will. But I know I have something afterwards I can do. Let's see if this works. Ooh, I just need to give it a name. So I'm going to call it Canada. And let's hope this is working. Ooh, it actually did work. Nah, this one didn't work. So this is the wrong one. I had another one, but it somewhat works anyway. So what it's actually doing now is it's looking in my data saying what is actually the grouping, that's area, what is the value there, and that's each of the different provinces or territory. As long as the map to what we actually have defined in a name property of our GeoJSON, then we're going to be able to use these custom maps. So now I can go ahead and click Done. I can drag in my Canada map. And I just wanted to show you something funky as well. So if you want to, basically to illustrate, you can do anything. So I'm just going to quickly create one more step. And I'm going to do my Bacon map data. I'm going to do sum of export. I am going to group by type. Switch over to my map. And down here, imported earlier today, Bacon map. There you go. And if we do conditional formatting on the type, I even updated the XMD to be in Bacon format. So there you go. I took this, actually this is done by a vector image, and then I converted it into GeoJSON and imported it. So basically, yes, you can take anything. Do you want to do the binding?
Yeah.
I don't think I need to say this, but leave.
So a lot of times we're going to need our charts to interact in ways that out of the box we don't have a way to do this. For example, maybe we need charts from two different data sets to talk to each other. Well, you know, back in the old days we didn't have this function, but now we have something called connected data sources, where if you have this visualization that's based off of one data set that has information about industries in it, and this one is based off some Salesforce data that also has industry, we can connect to those data sets and say this column is common between them, and then clicking to filter one will filter the other. But what if you have a different use case? Like you want to know, like take the number that's being output here and put it over here in red, or something like that. Or I want to be able to change the visualization type on the fly. There's a lot of different use cases where we need to pass the value from that's being returned by one step over to a different step. And so that's what bindings are. And they allow us to basically play Mad Libs and put in random variables wherever we want. So the most common example of this is just the simple grouping toggle. So I'm going to using the DTC opportunity data set that you have available in every Trailhead org. I'm going to just show an example of a binding here. So on my DTC Opti data set, first I'm going to group this by type. We'll group it by account type. So I've got customers and partners. And I'm going to get this on the screen. Now, I'm creating a second step here, mostly because I can't remember the API name off the top of my head, and so I just want to have it somewhere where I can remember what it is. But industry, it's probably just industry. So now I've got that there, so I can find the API name for it. Now, let's say that I wanted to take this chart and make it toggleable so that it's going to go back and forth between account and industry. Well, to do that, I'm going to need what's called a static step. So I'm going to drag a toggle out here. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to go change data set and create a static step with custom values. A static step is a miniature data set that lives inside of your dashboard and nowhere else. And if you think about it as just columns and rows, it becomes a lot easier to understand. I've actually extended these pretty far, where I've had 25 columns and 40 rows on a single static step. It's not best practice, but you can. So right now, this one out of the box, it's just got two columns, display and value. So I'm going to name the step my static. And the system's automatically going to append an _1 to the API name of that step. So that's kind of important to remember. And I'm going to call this one type. So my first row of data is going to be type, and my value is going to be count _type. So display, that's what shows on the button. Value, that's what we're going to pass over from one step to the other. So go ahead and add that in, and then industry, which I believe is just industry. We'll find out in a minute though. So now I've got my static step. So now we're going to need to Control E and hop into our, Command E, all right. We hop into our JSON here, and I'm going to come down here a ways. Let's find that static step of ours.
So the JSON is basically the set of instructions for our dashboard. So all the things that we're doing that results in some set of instructions. And the thing that we want to look at here is the step section, and each step has a name. So we're going to go in there and find that.
So
yeah.
right here, this is what we're looking at. This is data row number 1. This is data row number 2. We got our display column and our value columns. And I just want to confirm my values are correct here. So this industry step, this is the one that's being projected currently. So this is where I need to put in my binding. So bindings must be enclosed in quotes. I've already got the quotes from the field name. Open double curly, close double curly. I like to build my bindings from the outside in. So I know that this binding is going to take 2 functions. It's going to take a data input function. Basically, that says what part of the data. Do I want to return a column, an individual cell, or a row? And in this case, I want to return a column. And how do I want to return it? I want to return it as an object. This is actually going to fail because I didn't set the toggle single select and required. So I have a workaround for that. So as object, so go and grab a column out of that step. But now I need, and return it to me as an object. Now I need to tell it, well, which step? Which step do you want to grab this from? Well, I need to grab it from the step myStatic1. And, well, what do you want from it? Do you want the current output of that column, or do we want to know what the user actually clicked on? Well, because it's a button that they're going to be clicking on, I want to know what the user selected. So my options are either selection or result. And in this case, I'm going to use selection. Selection. And then the second argument the column takes, okay, well, which column or columns? So because there could be more than one column, I have to enclose this in an array. That's what the square brackets are for. So then, which column? Well, I'm going to give it my column name in quotes, which I have to escape because otherwise the JSON thinks that I'm doing something else. I mean, no, quote my air quotes here. And the column that I want is the value column. And then I need another slash to undo that escape. Now this is going to break. It's going to break for 2 reasons. The first reason that this is going to break is because if the user is not selecting anything from that toggle, it's going to pass in a null. And as a result, it's not going to work because you can't group by null. So to get around this, I'm going to use my good friend Coalesce, which works in so many places. It is hands down the most powerful and my favorite SAQL function. And I'm just going to give it a default value of account type. So if I don't specify anything, it is going to group by account type. And I need a closing parentheses right there. So that will prevent my step from breaking. The other reason why my step is going to break is because of a little thing called column map. And the most important thing that you need to know is delete it. For more information, check out a couple of Ricky's blog posts on that. So column map, I'm just going to go anywhere that I can find the words column map, and I'm just going to delete them all. So am I counting my curlies correctly? I believe I am. Boom, and next one.
That's Control-Shift-P.
Oh, does that, replaces it everywhere?
No. It just takes from the first curly bracket down to the next one. So it's whatever.
Oh, that's really cool. I forgot to delete this comma. And I should have 2 more instances of column map, only because I have 2 steps, and I was too lazy to look which. That's one too many. That is one too many. No, I'm terrible with Macs. Get rid of that. And whenever you go willy-nilly in the JSON like this, you tend to screw up. So we're going to find out if I did. And I have no more instances of column map. So let's find out. I've got a chart. That's a good sign. Now what happens when I click on industry? Nothing. It works. No, it doesn't work. I have no idea what I did wrong. If I had done this correctly, it would switch back and forth the grouping from account type to account industry. And if you don't believe me that I actually can do this, check out Binding Basics Part 1, the dynamic grouping toggle.
Okay, switch over to the final SAQL one, and then the filter logic. And
so
we for the challenge.
I'm going to start a new dashboard for this one because there's a good chance that I just straight up broke this. So dashboard. Create a blank dashboard and create a step on my DTC opportunity data set. And I want to group this by industry. Now, the mood I'm in today, I only want to see my closed won opportunities. But I'm a big fan of agriculture, so for me, every agricultural opportunity is a win. So what I'd like to do is I want to filter where stage equals closed won or industry equals agriculture. So to do that, I'm going to go over to my filters button and find that unfortunately the UI has no support for filter logic. But I am not, yet, safe harbor. It is on the roadmap, but I'm not defeated. So what am I going to do? First, I'm going to add a filter for that stage equals closed won. And now I'm going to add in that filter for, what did I say, industry equals agriculture. Industry equals agriculture. Now, right now it is showing me closed won and agriculture, but what I really want is closed won or agriculture. So all I got to do is hop over to SAQL mode. Now we notice we load, then we do two filters, then we group, project, order, and limit. A lot of those statements are actually completely unnecessary. We can remove the limit, we can remove the order. You'd be surprised how tiny you can actually reduce these two. But this is so simple, I'm almost embarrassed to do it. All I have to do is just take this filter here, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it up here. First, I'm going to do my double pipes for or I could also just type the word or, and then paste that in, get rid of this artifact down here, run the query, and it's really that easy to add filter logic to SAQL. You can put in parentheses, you can do all kinds of stuff. And those case statements we were showing you in the data flow, those also work in projections as well. So SAQL is really meant to be that, when all else fails, you can pretty much do whatever you want. I like to refer to compare table, that's like your slingshot. The data flow, that's more like your bow and arrow. SAQL is more like your trebuchet. And while it is an extremely powerful tool, it's actually difficult to debug. You lose some functionality and explorability with it. So I always recommend first try it with a compare table. If you can't do it, then try it with a data flow. If it needs to be dynamic, or if it's a one-off, or you can't do it in the data flow, then go to SAQL. So that's definitely a killer use case of why you will need SAQL, at least for the foreseeable immediate future, is for these for this filter logic.
Yeah. Okay, so I was gonna show you one with a different kind of bindings, but due to time, I'm just gonna drop that. So yeah, I might give you guys a link to do it yourself if you want to. But let's jump back into the challenge. Okay, so we thought, okay, let's go ahead and take some of these learnings that we have now, and let's give you guys a challenge. So the first thing is, of course, if you already have a developer org with analytics, it's not the regular Trailhead org, it has to have analytics. Then you can use that. If not, you can just get it by using this bit.ly link. And basically, the challenge is here, describe. It's 4 steps. We're not expecting you guys to do all of it. Oh, by the way, I'm seeing people taking pictures. This one here, whoa, this link here, that should work to equip doc where you have the challenge and you have all these URLs as well. So you can quickly go in and check. So each of these URL, you'll see those are either to Pete's video or to my blog. And that should basically give you the step and some help to actually complete these challenges. But the first one, to create a step where you can select between the grouping industry or opportunity type, and I hope you have more luck than Pete did.
Or try more than once. One thing to remember, that video was before the introduction to column map, so even though I give step-by-step instructions for how to do that, including the exact syntax for the binding, you will still have to go and delete column map.
Yeah.
Column map, like con,
The blog that I put in as well, there is a link in the end how to do the column map as well, so that should help, hopefully. The second one is to create a chart pipeline. Oh, why do I put chart in twice? Anyway, pipeline chart using stage for opportunity with customers that have amount that is greater than 1 million, or this is the or, they are of the customer type or the account type partners. And then the third one is to create a combo chart showing the amount per year, month, and the percentage change from one month to another. And finally, make sure that the amount is shown as revenue instead, that we don't see the field amount, but we see revenue. And then we want the value in it to show with a euro symbol. Yeah, I know we're in Canada, but we need to make a, make some kind of symbol. So that's what we picked.
Or $CAD works.
Something. So we have, how long do we have? 30 minutes. We're not expecting you guys to complete all of it, by the way, but this is just if you're super fast. We wanted to make sure all of it. Pick whichever one you want to start. Pete and I are here to help. And then in the end, we have a little quiz with some prizes. Sounds good?
We don't see that part.
I think this is where we're dropping off in terms of the recording, or it doesn't really make sense that we're here, but for these guys there, make sure you take a screenshot of this if you want to do do the challenge, get the URL, and yeah.
Thanks everybody who dialed in too.
Thank you.